Have you ever walked into a room and felt something was off, even though no one said a word? Like an invisible wall was suddenly there, cutting you off from the warmth, the connection, the comfort you expected? It's subtle, a glance that lingers too long, a smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, a pause that makes you question yourself. You try to shake it off, tell yourself you're imagining things, but deep down, something inside you whispers, "They don't like me." And worse, they're hiding it. That feeling can eat away at your peace. It creates this constant loop in your head, second-guessing everything you said, replaying conversations, wondering if you're being too sensitive or if something really is wrong. And the worst part, you can't prove anything. There's no confrontation, no obvious disrespect. Just small signs, little behaviors, quiet rejections that add up. It's like being slowly pushed away without a single word being spoken. That's what makes it so painful. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It's quiet, hidden, and emotionally draining. It puts you in a position where you're afraid to trust your own instincts. You start doubting yourself. You try harder to be liked, to fix something that was never yours to fix. But the truth is, your intuition is trying to protect you. It sees the red flags before your mind can rationalize them away. And that truth, the truth that someone may dislike you but is pretending otherwise, deserves to be seen, acknowledged, and honored. You're not here to live in confusion. You're not here to beg for clarity from people who refuse to be honest. You deserve to feel safe in your relationships, respected in your space, and secure in your presence. That starts with awareness. Because once you recognize the signs, once you understand the subtle ways people show you how they really feel, you begin to take back control. You stop questioning your value. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. This journey isn't about judging others or becoming cynical. It's about clarity. It's about giving yourself the peace that comes from knowing who's truly in your corner. You don't have to keep walking on eggshells. You don't have to keep pretending everything's fine when your heart tells you otherwise. There is power in facing what's real, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. And that's why this message matters, because once you know the signs, you'll never again be fooled by a fake smile. You'll stop chasing connection where none exists. You'll begin to choose truth over pretense, peace over confusion. That choice, that awareness, is your freedom. Stay with this, because every sign you recognize is another step out of emotional fog, another step toward self-respect, toward confidence, toward clarity. And if you've ever felt invisible in someone's presence, you're about to learn how to finally see and honor yourself. Some people smile while pulling away. They laugh with you but never truly let you in. They keep things surface level, polished, safe. It feels like you're talking to a mirror, your own voice bouncing back at you, but nothing ever goes deeper. You sense the distance, yet they hide it so well. Why do people do this? Why hide dislike behind a mask of politeness and charm? It's because truth makes them uncomfortable. Confrontation scares them, so they bury what they feel and play the part, not for your comfort, but for theirs. This has nothing to do with your worth. That's the most important thing to understand. Their hidden feelings aren't a reflection of your value. They're a reflection of their fear. Their fear of being disliked themselves, their fear of being seen as cruel, their fear of emotional vulnerability. So they act, they wear civility like armor, but beneath it there's tension, judgment, resentment, whatever they haven't dealt with. And when you're on the receiving end, you feel that imbalance. You sense the unspoken rejection. You start wondering if you're too much, too quiet, too loud, too different. But you're not the problem. The problem is the game they're playing, the emotional mask they wear. And the longer you stay confused by it, the more it drains you. That's the cost of hidden dislike. It doesn't just hurt in the moment, it seeps into your sense of self. It rewrites your confidence in tiny, invisible ways. But once you understand the psychology behind it, something shifts. You stop taking it personally. You realize that not everyone has the courage to be honest. Not everyone can show up with truth in their voice and kindness in their heart. Some people choose to suppress what they feel instead of facing it. And when that happens, you are not obligated to carry the weight of their avoidance. Clarity is freedom. When you can identify this kind of energy, you stop waiting for people to change. You stop bending over backward to please someone who's already decided to keep you at a distance. You stop explaining your worth to someone too afraid to acknowledge their own emotions. That's a turning point, a moment of quiet strength. It's where power comes back to you, not in anger, not in revenge, but in peace. Because peace is what you deserve. Not the peace that comes from fake smiles and silent tension, but the real kind, the kind that comes when you trust yourself again, when you look at someone's actions, not just their words, and believe what they show you. You don't have to expose them. You don't have to confront them. You just have to recognize the truth and make choices that honor it. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And it's how you rise. Not by fighting the mask, but by stepping into a life where masks have no place. You can feel the difference between someone who wants to be around you and someone who's only tolerating you. It's in the energy. It's in the effort. When someone truly values you, they reach out without needing a reason. They remember the little things. They ask how you are, not because they have to, but because they care. But when someone dislikes you and hides it, they create distance. They become passive. Their silence grows louder than words. They won't say anything unkind, but they also won't say anything meaningful. It's cold, not cruel. It's disconnection disguised as busyness. At first you may brush it off. You might make excuses for them. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they're just not good at communication. But if it's always you initiating, if they never check in, if their absence feels intentional rather than circumstantial, that's not a coincidence. That's a quiet boundary they've drawn without having the courage to speak it out loud. And you've felt it. That heaviness, that uncertainty, that quiet ache of wondering if you even matter to them. It's time to stop interpreting their inconsistency as your unworthiness. People make time for what matters. They show up for who they care about. And when they don't, they've already made a choice. They've already told you, just not with words. And that choice isn't about you. It's about where they are, what they value, what they fear. You are not meant to chase those who hide from connection. You are not here to earn what should be given freely. The moment you stop reaching out to someone who doesn't value your presence is the moment you start reclaiming your self-respect. That's not cold. That's not unkind. That's clarity. Because the more you invest in people who emotionally withdraw from you, the more you disconnect from your own needs. You stop noticing who does care. You stop nurturing the relationships that actually nourish you. And you start living in emotional survival mode, trying to keep bonds alive that were never mutual to begin with. There is no growth in begging for attention, no healing in forcing connection, and no peace in constantly wondering if you're wanted. You deserve to be in spaces where your presence is felt, not ignored, where your voice is heard, not tolerated, where your effort is matched, not overlooked. Letting go of those who quietly reject you is not a loss. It's a deep, powerful act of self-honor. The people who belong in your life will never make you question whether they care. You'll feel it. You'll see it. Their actions will speak without confusion. But first, you have to clear the space. You have to stop holding the door open for people who were never meant to stay. That's how you begin to heal, not by forcing someone to show up, but by finally accepting when they won't. And in that acceptance you find your peace, you find your strength, you find yourself. There's a truth your mind can overlook but your body never does. You sense it in a glance, in the shift of someone's tone, in the stillness between their words. You catch it when their smile fades too quickly, or when their eyes look past you, not into you. These are not random moments. They are micro-expressions, the subconscious reactions that slip through the cracks before the mask settles back in place. And they reveal more than words ever could, because no matter how much someone tries to hide their dislike, their face always tells the truth. It's in the tightening of their jaw, the way their lips twitch when you speak, the flicker of annoyance in their eyes that disappears before they think you notice. But you do notice. You always have. You just didn't trust yourself. You told yourself it was nothing. You convinced yourself you were overanalyzing. But your nervous system doesn't lie. It picks up on what logic tries to dismiss, and that quiet discomfort you feel around them, that heaviness you can't explain, that's your body responding to dishonesty. Not verbal dishonesty, but emotional. When someone genuinely likes you, their body relaxes around you. Their expressions are soft, open, present. There is ease in their presence. But when there's dislike, even hidden, tension appears. Control takes over, and in that control, their face betrays their truth. Because while words can be practiced, facial reactions are instant. They don't wait for approval, they just happen. And once you learn to see them, you stop needing verbal confirmation. You stop needing closure from those who lack the courage to give it. This isn't about becoming suspicious of everyone. It's about becoming deeply aligned with your inner knowing. It's about no longer dismissing the signs that whisper the truth when the noise of someone's politeness tries to drown it out. When you honor what you feel, you stop gaslighting yourself. You stop bending reality to protect someone else's image, and you begin to live in emotional truth instead of emotional confusion. You don't need dramatic evidence to validate your intuition. A fake smile that fades too fast is enough. A look that carries resentment, even for a second, is enough. The shift in their face when you walk into a room, that's not your imagination. That's your gift of awareness. And that gift is powerful. It protects you. It guides you. It teaches you who's safe and who's pretending to be. And when you stop second-guessing it, you stop walking into emotional traps disguised as friendships. You stop waiting for someone to admit what they've already shown you. There is strength in observation, strength in stillness, strength in noticing without reacting. Because when you can read what's hidden, you'll never again be controlled by what's unspoken. That's how you rise, not by forcing the truth out of others, but by finally listening to the truth you already know. When someone dislikes you but wants to hide it, they rarely do it with silence alone. They do it through subtle dominance, through comparison, through small controlled battles they hope you won't notice. It shows up when they turn every conversation into a contest. When your success becomes their competition, when you share joy and they meet it with envy disguised as indifference. Their tone shifts. Their words are wrapped in control. They don't celebrate with you. They calculate how they can one-up you without looking obvious. And if you're not paying attention, you'll think it's normal. You'll think it's just personality. But it's not. It's insecurity weaponized against your light. Hidden dislike often comes with subtle power plays. They want to feel above you, not beside you. They don't attack you directly, but they chip away at your confidence through quiet comparison. They share their own wins louder than yours. They question your achievements with a smile. They plant seeds of doubt under the mask of advice. You walk away feeling smaller, unsure, even though nothing explicitly cruel was said. That's the art of hidden resentment. It strikes without leaving fingerprints. But here's the truth. You were never meant to shrink for someone else's comfort. You were never meant to dim your light to soothe another person's ego. Their competition is not your responsibility. Their insecurity is not your burden. And your worth is not defined by how well you play someone else's silent game. You don't need to win against them. You don't need to prove anything. The moment you realize that, you step into freedom. You stop defending your voice. You stop matching their energy. And you start rising with grace. Because true strength isn't found in responding to competition. It's found in rising above it, quietly and powerfully. Let them measure. Let them compare. Let them hide their discomfort in praise that doesn't feel real. None of it can touch you once you stop needing their validation. You are not here to impress people who secretly hope you'll fail. You are here to grow, to shine, to evolve without asking permission. And when someone turns every moment into a silent battle, remember this. Their need to compete reveals their pain, not your inadequacy. Walking away from that energy is not weakness, it is power. The kind of power that doesn't shout but moves with calm confidence. You don't owe anyone proof that you belong. Your peace is proof, your clarity is proof, and your refusal to engage in quiet rivalry is proof. You've spent enough time doubting your instincts, minimizing your progress, and questioning your success to keep others comfortable. That time is over. From now on, let your presence be your answer. Let your energy speak louder than their games. And let your growth become the one thing no one can quietly compete with. Because when you stop shrinking, you become undeniable. Not through force, but through unshakable inner strength. Unusual activity has been detected from your device. Try again later. 96 A50 BD74 AD7 A75 ADFW. Sometimes people won't attack you directly. They'll do it with compliments. But these aren't real compliments. They're backhanded, carefully crafted to sound polite, yet designed to cut. They wrap judgment in sugar. They hide jealousy behind praise. You'll hear it in phrases like, "You're actually pretty smart," or "I didn't expect you to pull that off," words that pretend to lift you up but quietly push you down. And if you're not grounded in your self-worth, those words will get inside you. You'll start believing you need to earn genuine kindness. You'll begin accepting less, just to keep the peace. This is how hidden dislike operates. It disguises itself as subtle approval that feels off. The tone never quite matches the message. The timing feels strange. The smile seems forced. And something inside you twists, but you silence it. You try to be polite. You smile back. You thank them, even though your heart knows what just happened. That's the trap. Being too afraid to name the disrespect because it was served in a charming voice. But your body knows. Your spirit knows. That discomfort you feel is a signal. It's your intuition calling you back to yourself. Because no one who truly values you will ever make you feel small to make themselves feel big. Real support doesn't come with hidden messages. It doesn't sting. It doesn't confuse. It doesn't leave you wondering if you were just insulted. You have every right to stop giving your attention to people who undermine you, even quietly. You don't owe grace to those who decorate their contempt in civility. You don't have to explain your discomfort. You don't need proof. If it doesn't feel good, it's not good. And when someone repeatedly makes you feel like you're not enough, no matter how clever they try to sound, it's not a joke, it's not humor, and it's not harmless. It's emotional sabotage. Protect your spirit from these subtle attacks. Don't let yourself be trained to seek approval from those who never offer it sincerely. You don't need to be the bigger person by staying silent. The bigger person is the one who walks away from conversations that chip away at their confidence, the one who no longer stays where praise feels like punishment. You were not born to be tolerated. You were born to be respected, to be uplifted, to be surrounded by people who mean what they say and say what they mean, the kind of people who don't hide behind veiled insults when they're uncomfortable with your light. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them sit with their own insecurity. But don't let it into your mind. Don't let it shape your identity. The more you trust your instincts, the less you'll explain them. And when you begin to walk away from masked judgment disguised as kindness, you begin walking toward your own peace. That is your power, not in reacting, but in choosing what you no longer receive. That choice is yours now. Use it. Unusual activity has been detected from your device. Try again later. 96A 53175, EA 14D 56B DFW. There's a different kind of pain that comes when you realize you're being exly, but in quiet, deliberate ways. You don't hear about the plans until after they've happened. You weren't invited, but everyone else was. You're left out of the group messages, the conversations, the moments that create connection, and no one says a word. That's the part that stings the most. There's no confrontation, no explanation. Just silence, like your absence was easier for them than your presence. This is one of the most subtle but powerful ways hidden dislike reveals itself. It's not through direct rejection, it's through quiet omission. They won't tell you they don't want you around. They'll just stop including you. They'll make sure you feel like an outsider without having to say anything that would make them look unkind. It's emotional dismissal masked as normal behavior, and unless you're paying attention, you might convince yourself it's just a coincidence. But it's not a coincidence when it keeps happening. It's not an accident when they remember to invite everyone but you. It's not unintentional when they leave you out of conversations you used to be part of. That's not forgetfulness. That's avoidance. And avoidance is a choice. It's a quiet way of saying, you're not part of this anymore, without having to take responsibility for the message. It allows them to maintain the illusion of kindness while slowly pushing you away. You do not deserve to be tolerated in someone's presence. You deserve to be welcomed in it, to be thought of, to be included not out of obligation, but because you matter. When that stops happening, don't ignore it, don't shrink, don't chase their attention, hoping for an explanation that will never come, because those who exclude you in silence rarely give you the honesty of a real goodbye. They just disappear, expecting you to take the hint. But your worth was never dependent on their invitation. Your place in this world isn't defined by who chooses to include you. Real connection doesn't have to be begged for, and anyone who makes you feel invisible is showing you something important about themselves, not about you. You are not invisible. You're just no longer choosing to be seen by people who refuse to value your presence. Protect your energy. Stop knocking on doors that have already been closed. The people who are meant to walk with you won't need reminders to include you. They'll feel your absence. They'll make space for your voice, your energy, your heart. Until then, don't waste your light trying to fit into places that were never meant to hold it. Exclusion hurts, but clarity heals. You don't need everyone. You only need those who choose you freely. And sometimes the most powerful decision is not to ask why you were left out, but to walk away from where you were never truly welcomed. That's not rejection. That's redirection, toward people who see you, toward spaces where you never have to question your place again. Sometimes the silence isn't in their actions, it's in their reactions. You speak, but there's no spark. You laugh, but they don't join in. You try to connect, but their energy stays flat. And while everyone else around you engages, they remain distant, detached. You tell a joke, share a thought, express something real, and they give you nothing. A blank expression, a half-hearted nod, a tight-lipped smile that disappears before it reaches their eyes. It may seem small, but that absence of response is louder than any word they could ever speak. People who secretly dislike you often withhold the simplest form of human connection, shared joy. They avoid laughing with you because laughter creates closeness. It softens walls. It bonds people without effort. And if they've already decided they don't want that closeness with you, they'll resist it, even if it means stifling their own reactions. It's not always about humor. It's about emotional refusal. A quiet way of saying, I'm not open to you. not through argument or insult, but through withholding warmth. That kind of subtle rejection is difficult to name, but impossible not to feel. And if you're not careful, it can begin to erode your self-expression. You start second-guessing your words. You speak less, smile less, share less, because their emotional withdrawal makes you question your voice, not just what you said, but who you are. That's the real damage. The slow, invisible pressure to shrink yourself for someone who is never truly listening. But you were never meant to perform for someone's approval. You were never meant to hold back your light because someone refuses to see it. Their inability to respond to you with presence, with authenticity, with shared humanity, that's not your flaw. That's their filter, their armor, their choice. And you do not have to adjust your frequency just because they choose to stay closed off. Free yourself from the need to be received by everyone. You're not here to convince someone to connect. You're not here to beg for smiles or laughter or warmth. You're here to be whole, fully, unapologetically. And if someone chooses not to meet you there, that's their loss, not your reflection. The more you honor your voice, the less their silence will control you. You'll begin to understand that someone's lack of reaction is not evidence that you're too much or not enough. It's evidence of emotional distance. And emotional distance does not require your correction. It requires your boundaries. Let their silence be their message. Let it speak louder than the words they never said. And then, choose yourself. Choose to keep showing up, keep laughing, keep living in your fullness. Because the right people won't just hear you, they'll feel you. They'll meet you with energy, presence, and joy, not because you demanded it, but because they wanted to. That is the connection you deserve, and that is the connection you never have to chase. There's a particular kind of pain that doesn't come from what someone does to you, but from the way they leave you questioning what you felt. You notice the distance. You sense the tension. You picked up on the energy shift, but when you tried to name it, you were met with denial, deflection, or dismissal. They acted like everything was fine, like your discomfort wasn't real, like your instincts were wrong. And slowly, you started turning that doubt inward. You stopped trusting your own perception. That's the quiet destruction caused by someone who hides their dislike behind smiles and silence. It's not just the behavior that hurts, it's the confusion, the way your mind runs in circles trying to decode mixed signals, the way your heart hesitates before speaking, the way your body tenses around someone who insists everything is okay. You end up stuck in an invisible war between what you feel and what they pretend. And if you're not grounded, that war can make you feel broken. But you are not broken. You are perceptive. You are emotionally intelligent. You are attuned to more than words, and that is your power. When someone dislikes you but refuses to admit it, they place the weight of that unspoken truth on your shoulders. You're the one who carries the discomfort. You're the one who senses what they won't say, and you're the one who begins to doubt yourself because of it. That is not just unfair, it's emotionally manipulative. It places you in a position where clarity is always just out of reach, and peace becomes something you can never fully grasp. But you are not obligated to live in that fog. You don't need someone's confession to validate your intuition. You don't need permission to believe what your body already knows. You are allowed to move away from energy that feels wrong, even if no one else sees it. You are allowed to trust your discomfort. Because discomfort is often clarity in disguise. It is your nervous system responding to emotional dishonesty. This is your permission to stop second-guessing yourself, to stop explaining your feelings to people who have no intention of honoring them, to stop waiting for confirmation from someone who benefits from your confusion. You are not overthinking. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining things. You are awakening to truth, and truth doesn't always arrive with proof. Sometimes it arrives as a whisper, a feeling, a shift in energy so subtle only your soul can hear it. And that is more than enough. That is your signal. That is your freedom. When you begin to believe in what you feel, without needing someone else to name it, you step into a deeper kind of power, a quiet, grounded certainty. And from that place, you no longer chase clarity, you create it. You no longer seek closure, you become it. You no longer ask to be seen. You walk as someone who already is. Hidden dislike cuts the deepest because it forces you to question what can't be seen. It's not loud, it's not obvious. It creeps in through moments, tones, silences, and shifts in presence. And you begin to carry that weight quietly, trying to hold your emotions together, while trying not to appear fragile. But there is nothing fragile about noticing when something feels off. That's not weakness, it's awareness. And awareness is the beginning of everything. It's how you stop begging for honesty from people who only offer pretense. It's how you begin to protect your own peace from the weight of their hidden discomfort. That's why it hurts so much. Because it's invisible. Because it leaves no evidence. Because it lives in the space between what they say and what you feel. That gap becomes a battlefield. You keep trying to bridge it, trying to make sense of what doesn't make sense, trying to understand how someone can act kind but feel cold. It's emotionally exhausting, and if you don't catch it, that confusion becomes part of your inner world. You start thinking there's something wrong with you, that if you were just a little different, a little better, a little easier, they would treat you differently. But that's the lie, and it's time to stop living inside of it. You do not need to change to earn clarity. You do not need to shrink yourself to gain their warmth. Their dislike, even if hidden, is not your fault. It's not your job to fix the emotional inconsistencies of others. It's not your role to make them comfortable at the cost of your own trust in yourself. You are not here to translate mixed signals. You are here to recognize them and move accordingly. The moment you stop trying to decode someone else's silence is the moment you start reclaiming your power. Because power doesn't come from control. It comes from clarity. It comes from no longer allowing someone else's avoidance to decide how you show up for yourself. You have a right to emotional safety. You have a right to protect your heart. And you have a right to walk away from anyone who keeps you in a state of emotional questioning. You're not wrong for wanting consistency. You're not needy for craving honesty. You're not too sensitive for feeling the disconnect even when nothing has been said. That sensitivity is your strength. It's what keeps you aligned with truth. It's what leads you toward real, reciprocal connection. But only if you trust it. Only if you listen. Only if you stop giving energy to people who feed you doubt instead of presence. You deserve relationships that feel clear, that feel safe, that feel mutual, and you will find them, not by fighting for them, but by no longer settling for the ones that leave you in silence. The truth is simple. If they can't meet you with honesty, they don't deserve your presence. Let that be your freedom. Let that be your beginning. There is something deeply damaging about being around people who make you feel like an inconvenience. Not because they say it outright, but because their energy makes it clear. The sigh before they respond, the subtle eye roll they think you won't notice, the long pause before they answer your messages, if they answer at all. It's in the way they speak to others with ease, but tighten up around you, like your presence requires effort, like your voice is something they have to endure. This kind of treatment leaves a mark, not on your skin, but on your spirit. It teaches you to apologize for existing, to filter yourself before you even speak, to expect rejection before it happens. Slowly, you start to shrink. Not because you want to, but because it feels safer. You stop asking for what you need. You silence your thoughts. You make yourself small enough not to disturb them, thinking maybe then they'll finally accept you. But that acceptance never comes, because it was never about you. It was about them, their inability to value what they can't control, their discomfort with your truth, their fear of your presence, because it reflects something in themselves they've never faced. People who secretly dislike you often make you feel like too much, too loud, too emotional, too different, too real. And they won't say it. They'll just react to you with withdrawal, with judgment, with a quiet kind of dismissal that says, you don't belong here. But you do, just not with them. Not in spaces where your light is dimmed to soothe someone else's insecurity. Not in rooms where your confidence is treated as arrogance. Not in connections where your emotional depth is seen as a burden instead of a gift. You are not made to play small. You were not born to walk on eggshells to preserve someone else's comfort. If your presence triggers someone, it's not your job to make yourself less visible. It's your job to stand rooted in your truth and keep showing up fully. Not to prove anything, but to live freely, to breathe without shame, to exist without needing permission. The moment you stop apologizing for who you are is the moment everything begins to shift. Not because others will suddenly treat you better, but because you will. You will stop tolerating half-presence. You will stop staying where your spirit is quietly rejected. And you will begin to choose environments where you are not managed, but embraced. Let them be uncomfortable with your power. Let them flinch at your honesty. Let them misunderstand your heart. That is not your problem to solve. Your only task is to remain true, to keep honoring the part of you that knows you are not too much. You are just not for everyone. And that is not rejection. That is redirection toward the life, the people, the peace that will never ask you to apologize for being whole. There are moments when someone's dislike doesn't show up in what they do, but in what they refuse to do. They don't support you. They don't celebrate you. They don't stand beside you, even when you need them the most. You reach out, and they stay distant. You succeed, and they stay silent. They may not speak negatively, but they never speak life into you either. And that silence is not neutral. It's loud. It's intentional. It's a form of resistance wrapped in passivity, designed to go unnoticed, but you feel it deeply. Because support isn't just what people give, it's what they choose to withhold. When someone cares, they show up, they acknowledge, they affirm, they express it, not perfectly but consistently. And when someone hides their dislike behind indifference, what they're really saying is, I don't want to see you rise. They may stay in your life, but only on the sidelines, always watching, never clapping, always near, but never truly present. It's subtle, but powerful. Because over time, that lack of support can make you question your momentum. It can make your victories feel emptier. It can turn your progress into something you hide instead of something you share. You begin wondering if you're asking for too much, if you're expecting too much, if your joy is somehow inconvenient. But the truth is, real connection does not retreat from your growth. It stands with it. It doesn't feel threatened by your light. It doesn't go quiet when you shine. People who value you will speak up, even when the words are small. They will reach out, even when they don't fully understand what you're doing. They will not let your success echo into silence. You are not meant to shrink your light to fit the shadows of someone else's silence. Your growth is not a threat. Your voice is not too loud. Your joy is not too much. And anyone who makes you feel otherwise, no matter how politely, is not walking with you. They may be beside you physically, but emotionally, they've already stepped away. You deserve to be celebrated, not just tolerated. To be uplifted, not just observed. And that begins with recognizing the difference between someone who's present in your life and someone who's invested in it. Presence without participation is emptiness in disguise. It's not loyalty, it's comfort. And you are not here to maintain someone else's comfort at the expense of your purpose. Start choosing relationships that echo your energy, that speak life into your dreams, that show up, not just when you're struggling, but when you're thriving. Because if someone can't clap for you when you're winning, they've already told you what they feel behind the mask. Believe them. Not to carry resentment, but to carry wisdom, to choose alignment over attachment, and to never again stay close to someone who cannot hold space for your light. Let their silence stay behind you. You have far more ahead. When someone dislikes you but tries to conceal it, they often use sarcasm as a shield. Not the kind that brings people closer, the kind that cuts beneath the surface and pretends to be harmless. They wrap their criticism in humor. They mask their discomfort in jokes. And when you react, they tell you to lighten up, that it was just a laugh. But you felt it. You felt the sting behind the smile. You felt the judgment beneath the words. And deep down, you knew that wasn't a joke. It was an attack in disguise. Sarcasm, when misused, becomes a weapon for those too afraid to be honest. Instead of expressing their dislike directly, they dress it up in mockery. They aim to embarrass you in front of others. They make comments that sound like humor but leave you questioning your worth. They laugh first, so they can't be held accountable later. And that's the game. They create emotional confusion while keeping their hands clean. You're left wondering if you're being too sensitive, if you imagined it, if you overreacted. But your feelings are not an overreaction. They're a response to disrespect that refuses to name itself. You don't have to accept that kind of behavior just because it's wrapped in a smile. You don't have to play along to keep the peace. You don't have to ignore it to protect their image. Because every time you allow someone to use sarcasm to tear you down, you teach yourself that your dignity is negotiable, and it never is. You have the right to set boundaries, even when the disrespect is hidden behind laughter. Not everyone who jokes with you is laughing with you. Some are laughing at you, hoping you won't notice, hoping you'll question yourself instead of confronting them. But you deserve more than that. You deserve sincerity. You deserve safety in conversation. You deserve to be around people who build you up, not disguise their rejection in humor. That kind of fake closeness is poison. It teaches you to laugh through pain, to stay silent when you want to speak, to smile while being disrespected, and slowly it erodes your self-trust. You were not born to absorb subtle cruelty. You were not made to entertain people who chip away at your spirit in front of others. You don't have to play along with sarcasm that feels like shame. You can name it. You can walk away from it. You can choose relationships where laughter is shared, not used, where words heal, not harm, where you are not the punchline to someone else's discomfort. The next time someone hides disrespect inside a joke, remember, their humor is not your responsibility. Their bitterness is not your burden, and your silence is not required. You can protect your energy without raising your voice. You can set the standard with your absence. That is how you honor yourself, not by matching their tone, but by never allowing it to shape who you are. One of the most damaging signs that someone secretly dislikes you is when they begin to minimize your emotions. You try to open up, and they shut you down. You express how something made you feel, and they tell you you're overreacting. They don't yell. They don't argue. They dismiss. They downplay. They twist your truth into something small, something inconvenient, something exaggerated. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start doing it too. You stop speaking up because you fear being labeled dramatic. You silence yourself because it's easier than being invalidated. This kind of emotional minimization is subtle, but it's powerful. It sends the message that your experiences don't matter, that your perspective is wrong, that your pain is just noise. And when it comes from someone close, it cuts deeper, because you're not just being dismissed, you're being erased. Piece by piece, you begin to doubt your own reality. You second-guess your reactions. You wonder if maybe you are too sensitive. But that's not sensitivity, that's clarity. That's your emotional radar picking up what their words won't admit. People who secretly dislike you often pretend to care, but only within the limits of their comfort. They'll offer shallow concern. But when your feelings demand real presence, they disappear emotionally. And when you hold up a mirror to their behavior, they shift the blame back to you. They use your vulnerability as a way to control a conversation. They weaponize calmness to make your hurt seem irrational. And if you're not careful, you'll learn to silence your emotions just to maintain the illusion of peace. But real peace doesn't require your silence. Real connection doesn't shrink your emotions to make someone else more comfortable. You have a right to feel. You have a right to speak. You have a right to express the truth of your experience without being made to feel foolish for doing so. Your emotions are not too much. They are not weak. They are not wrong. They are signals, warnings, truth tellers. And when someone tries to turn them against you, that is not care, that is control. You were not born to suppress what's real. You were not made to filter your feelings to fit into someone else's limits. If they can't handle your truth, they don't deserve access to your heart. Let that be your boundary, let that be your power. You don't need to fight for understanding from someone who's already chosen not to see you. You only need to stay honest with yourself, and walk in that honesty, even if it means walking alone. Because alone with your truth is better than together in denial. Every time you validate your own emotions, you reclaim a part of yourself that someone tried to mute. And with every breath of self-trust, you remind yourself, I am allowed to feel. I am allowed to speak. I am allowed to be. Fully. Freely. Without apology. There comes a moment when someone's hidden dislike becomes harder to ignore. Not because they finally say it, but because their behavior becomes colder, more calculated, more distant. They don't lash out, they don't cause scenes. They simply withdraw, piece by piece. They start showing up late, responding slower, forgetting plans. They don't have time, they're just busy. But somehow, they're never too busy for others. You start noticing the pattern, not in what they say, but in what they no longer do. And it hits you, the connection you once had is no longer mutual. You're the only one reaching. When someone quietly pulls away, it creates a quiet kind of pain. It's not dramatic, it's not obvious, but it's heavy and confusing because nothing was said, no argument, no confrontation, just a slow, steady fade. And the worst part, you start blaming yourself. You wonder what you did wrong. You scan every conversation, every message, every moment, looking for something that could explain their change. But sometimes there is no event, no reason. Just a decision they made quietly, without offering you the dignity of clarity. People who secretly dislike you often disengage in silence, because they want the distance without the responsibility. They want out, but they don't want to feel guilty for walking away. So they stop investing. They stop caring. They stop showing up with intention. Not enough to cause a rupture, but just enough to make you feel alone while they stay physically present. It's emotional abandonment masked as subtle detachment, and it leaves you stuck in between. Not rejected, not accepted, just ignored. But you are not meant to beg for energy. You are not meant to chase presence. You are not meant to keep holding on to someone who has already let go in spirit. Your worth is not measured by who stays in your life out of habit. It's measured by who chooses to show up, even when it's inconvenient, even when it takes effort, even when nothing is owed. You deserve mutuality. You deserve effort. You deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. And when someone's behavior starts pulling away, you are allowed to match that energy, not with bitterness, but with boundaries. You don't have to explain your feelings to someone who's already chosen to stop hearing you. You don't need closure from someone who's quietly decided you no longer matter. Your awareness is enough. Your clarity is enough. Your self-respect is more than enough. Let their distance speak. Let it confirm what you already feel. And instead of fighting for a connection that's no longer real, reclaim your energy. Pour it back into yourself, into people who show up, into spaces where your presence is not just noticed, but valued. Because when you stop chasing what's fading, you make room for what's real. You make room for love that's whole. And in that choice, you stop asking why they left and start remembering why you deserve more.